All right, let's jump into the news, and we're going to start with Roku. So last year, Roku announced that they were going to start making their own TVs. And we were all like, oh, okay, but you've been working with TCL. We'll see how this goes, I guess. And they basically put out some entry level and some mid level TVs, and they were fine. But this year, they're launching a new series, and it's what they're calling the Pro Series. So this is what they would call their high-end TV series. I kind of want to feel like it belongs in air quotes, high-end, because these aren't going to be ridiculously expensive TVs. We're talking 55, 65, and 75-inch models here that are going to top out at $1,500. And a $1,500 75-inch TV, that's not super expensive. So what are you getting for this? The main thing that the Pro Series TVs gets you is better display technology. And if you remember back to last year, we talked a whole lot about mini LED, and that is what the Roku TVs in this Pro Series line are sporting. And as a reminder, what the heck is mini LED? Because there's so many different TV technologies nowadays. Mini LED, it kind of is exactly what it sounds like. They are really, really small LEDs. So it's not quite as small as like OLED, where in the thing that makes OLED so amazing is that every single pixel is individually lit, which means that every single pixel can be individually turned off. And that's not quite the case here, but it does mean that there's way more lights in this TV than a traditional non-mini LED TV would have. And what that means is that you can have more local dimming zones. They haven't said how many local dimming zones these TVs will have, but it could be hundreds, could be thousands. It's probably not going to be thousands on these TVs. They're not that expensive. But why does that matter? Again, think about what we always talk about when it comes to OLEDs. It's contrast. If you were looking at a movie and they pan across the sky and it is a dark black sky and there's a bright moon right in the middle of that dark sky, on an OLED, there will be black turned off pixels next to that white bright moon. On an LED TV, they can't get that in depth. So you always see a little bit of a halo of light in situations like that. And as these mini LED TVs, because they have more and more lights that they can turn on and turn off, you get less of that halo effect. So far better actual contrast between the really bright things and the really dark things. So it's still not OLED, but it's a whole lot closer to OLED. These TVs are also going to have what they call an AI smart picture mode. You're going to hear AI like 1 billion times throughout CES this year.
More than usual.
Right. And what they're proposing with this new feature is they're like, hey, most people never adjust their TV settings at all. They just leave it in the default, which looks terrible. Don't do that. And the people who care probably at least set it once. Like, probably everybody listening to this show has at least tweaked their TV settings, maybe per input. Maybe you've got one for your Blu-ray player / streaming box and one set of settings for your game console, maybe. With this AI smart picture mode, it theoretically does all of that for you by figuring out what the display settings should be based on what you're watching. We'll see how well it actually works in practice.
Yeah. I feel like vendors, I feel like TV manufacturers have been saying that they've been doing this already with AI for years now. I think my LG supposedly does this. You know how I use that feature? I turn it off.
I turn it off, right? But I don't know. Maybe this will work for people. Who knows? And like, if you if you go over to your uncle's house and he's got one of these TVs and you're like, oh my gosh, this is clearly on the default settings, maybe at least just switch it to this mode and maybe it will be better, but you won't have to spend 20 minutes calibrating your uncle's TV for him.
Yeah, but not just that, also turn off smoothing.
Well, I mean, that's one of the settings that this could be tweaking. Like maybe it's turning off smoothing when you're watching a movie, but turning it on when you're watching sports, which I didn't know that that's the thing that people do, but maybe it does actually help with sports. I don't know. Maybe I should turn it on the next time I watch a hockey game. But that is always one of the first things I turn off.
Right.
So the other question that I have about this is, if in the past, if you've wanted a TV that had Roku built in, you typically bought a TCL TV. And like we said at the beginning of this topic, they said last year they weren't here to compete with TCL, but now they're making even higher market TVs. And we haven't heard TCL's announcements yet. Do we think TCL's done with Roku at this point, and maybe they're just going to go all in on Google TV?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, TCL has definitely flirted with different ecosystems. You may recall that years and years ago, we even talked about TCL being driven by the engine that ran Media Center, that they used some of the code inside it to drive what was going on inside the TV. I think that TCL wisely has kind of played in different fields and will continue to do so. I'm not convinced that this really does compete with TCL. Now, I know that TCL does have some higher end models in addition to the cheaper ones that we're used to seeing, but I don't think their sweet spot is this like mid-high model. Honestly, I think people buying TCL TVs in the US, at least, are buying them because they're cheap.
Well, TCL for the last few years has kind of dominated the, I want to say the value space, but I want to say that in a way that isn't condescending. Like,
Sure.
not cheap. Like, if you're looking for the best TV for the value and you're spending more than $300 on a TV,
Yep.
then I can't say the series names anymore because they've changed and now I can't remember what the what the sweet spot is there. But if you were like, I really want a higher refresh rate and pretty good picture quality, but I can't afford an LG OLED, like they have been the TVs to get the last couple of years.
Yeah, but kind of like Vizio, right?
Yeah, but
aren't they kind of
they
competitors
took a step beyond Vizio?
Well, no, right. I agree. So I don't know. I feel like Roku's shooting higher than they're actually getting with this. We'll see how it lands. But I mean, what? They have speakers too, right? How popular are those? I don't honestly know. I don't know. I don't have a lot of, what's the right word? Hope for this product line. I just don't think that people are looking to get a Roku branded higher end television. I don't know why you would. There are so many good players in that space already.
Yeah, I'll be real curious to see how this performs compared to a similarly spec TCL this year.
Yeah.
We'll wait to see what David Katzmeyer says over at CNET, and I'm probably required to say that I work for the same company that owns CNET. So
there you go.
But,
and I'm probably required to say that I own stock in Roku, and I still don't think this is going to do well.
But for the record, you and I have been saying go read David Katzmeyer's reviews of TVs for more years than I've been working for the parent company.
Yep, for sure.